everyone, how are you? My name is Chantal Chendareta. Najua mmetumia sana. Welcome to Kenyan Design Conversations. And with me, I have a very prominent person in the design industry. Like lakini kabla nimpeane hiyo introduction, eh nitaacha my co-host ajiintroduce.
My name is Elvis Mariga. I'm a software developer. Napenda kuendesha pikipiki. I'm yearning forward to be a product designer, and I'm happy to be here on this platform. Yes, as a host.
Sawa Baika. Sasa hauta introduce Baika mwenzako? Mpe mic.
Mike kwako bike mwenzangu.
Sawa. My name is Max. Product designer, father, and a good human. I design for a living, but I create for passion. I think that's pretty much my introduction. Ama, you wanted to know more?
Mi think nimestick kwa kichwa yangu.
Nashuku hukusema wewe ni brain.
Sawa. I actually thought we were having a video, so I wore my best cap today.
You have God is a designer kill.
Yep.
Sasa juu umewasha usizime.
Sawa basi, I'll try. Niko na notes too all over, so ukiona na dot around, just know I'm neighbor Mwax.
Finding your notes. Ni
Yes.
sawa. Hata sisi tuko na notes.
Yeah.
Introduction yako ni fupi. I was wondering what's wrong with it. You're being very modest. You're being very kind with the introduction. So one thing huwa napea guests wangu ni the liberty to introduce yourself the way you want to be introduced by someone else. So you have bragging rights. Now let's do this again.
All right, no worries. We can do this again. Starting from the top, my name is Max, product designer, father, and a good human. I try to be. I design for a living, but mostly I create for passion. I started designing icons and illustrations like 2016. It was a necessity because I wanted to earn a little bit of cash in campus. So I started doing Illustrator and some icons I threw in Icon Finder and Noun Project. So I used to earn like 1,000 per month. So yeah, so that's my journey into design. Transitioned into graphic design, doing logos for free, doing logos for lunch, doing logos for and designs and websites for rent. So after campus, I decided let me just take it full time, and that's how I got myself into the space. Got a couple of gigs here and there through friends, of course, and landed my first, I'd say, UI UX role in Kisumu and in a company called Wezakea. So I helped build the brand up. Found myself in Betika. Found myself doing a lot of casino projects. So right now I'm in the iGaming industry, but yeah, that's basically my introduction. Yeah, I'm a biker. I like hiking, traveling. I try to read. Nowadays, my bookshelf is rusty because I'm not reading the physical book, so I find myself reading on my phone. I try to be creative at times, so I have a lot of like paint works. Just trying to do something that keeps your brain active. So that's for me my introduction into my life and space.
I've loved this where you were saying like you designed for. I've lost the word. The exact words.
Yeah, lunch for free.
You designed for.
Or mzinga.
And creative for passion.
Yeah.
No wonder you love drawing.
Yeah, I do. I try to sketch. Yeah.
Doing the art.
And funnily, by the way, if I can mention this, is some of the things we used to do as children are some of the things that are defining us as adults, and maybe we don't know because maybe our skills were suppressed, or we didn't dive deeper into our skills. Because I used to draw really nicely. You remember this comic book? It was called Super Strikers. I used to draw Shakes
Yes, yes.
McKenna and every other character from the top of my head. So I remember those days, and I'm like, okay, if I could have grown this talent, I wouldn't have found myself trying to do finance and all those mambo jambos. I would have just stuck to design, and it would have brought me more passion and joy. However, finding yourself is also losing yourself. So yeah.
Ni ukweli, you need to like kind of lose yourself to find yourself. That's a book compare this introduction with the first one, surely. Surely. Surely.
Modesty, modesty. Hmm?
Dear listeners, that was Max's introduction. Just a brief overview of what we are going through today. So, to mention is senior designer. Well, I am let me apologize first. This was supposed to be a session to which kungekuwa na slides, tungeona vitu, lakini juu siku communicate mapema. We're going to have that session siku ingine. But we want to talk about design systems and how to manage design systems. So you might not know what a design system is, right? Mariga, do you know what a design system is?
Design system. Yeah, I know what a design system is, but I haven't really used a design system or haven't worked on a design system.
So while I have used design systems, like I think mainly I majorly use the material UI design system. I'm not really versed with how to use it visually. So I think Max, before we get into like details, mobs, and just give us a quick overview of what a design system is. Alafu, like, just break it down for us.
All right. So a design system is just a set of guidelines. So it's a comprehensive set of guidelines, which include like components and the standards and practices that you're going to use so that you make your UI consistent. Is that short enough and sweet? So it's a comprehensive set of guidelines that you use to build components and UI elements, and this forms like the foundation of your app or website or your branding and everything, because it all starts with branding. However, it helps us to ensure consistency while you're building different apps. So yeah, I think that's short and sweet. Maybe I'll go deep into details. Are you on mute?
There's this dog here. Eh, there's this dog here just disturbed me and I don't know what to do.
Patia Bosco chakula.
Sawa. Lakini sasa ukisema design systems, wewe umetumia ngapi?
Mm.
Nimeuliza,
Mm-hmm.
so how do we get these design systems na, or how do we create design systems? Wewe kwanza, do you create yours from scratch? Do
Yep.
you use others? How do you identify what design system to use? Or how do you actually go about that?
Those are like five questions in one. So um usually do like for me, I usually do an assessment of a product. So it depends, because if you're a product designer, you have to think full scale. So what I mean by full scale is you're thinking about how do I build a brand from the ground up. So it means your colors, your typography, your look and feel, all your illustrations, all your photography, how you're going to take your photos. So it's a full brand guide. How you're going to disseminate that brand guide into UI elements online, because the brand guide dictates how every element in your, let's say, product is going to look like, right? So once you've identified all that and you build out, or rather you take your brand guide, you form a design system, which is basically guidelines. So it will have, so what a design system actually has are, it has principles, it has foundations, it has guidelines, it has components, it has templates, design tokens, and at times you can have patterns. So this is how it's going to be gawanyishwad, for lack of a better word. So all these things intermarry. And the first thing you have to start with is your foundations. So your foundation is your brand guide. So your foundation includes your identity, your styling, your typography, your colors, spacing and layout, iconography, how you're going to do your videos. So you're deciding all that before you even build your design system. So, and this is building a design system from scratch. So there are three ways to build a design system. You can build it from scratch if you don't have a design system. You can steal from other guys who have built design systems. What else can you do? Yeah, and I've seen tools that actually you can grab a whole design system. So I've talked about the foundations. Once you start with the foundations and you're done with building out the foundations, the next step is to go to your guidelines. Your guidelines are essentially you're telling, or rather, you're informing all the users of the design system how they are going to consume that design system. And who are the users of a design system? If you who do you think uses a design system apart from you?
Okay. Apart from me as a designer, I'm guessing the developers as well,
Yep.
the marketing team,
Mhm.
so everyone else in the company.
Yep. So because you're building out a set of guidelines, it means that all these people, product managers, marketing directors, all the different stakeholders are using the design system in different ways. So that's why you have to break the design system down into consumable elements for different people. So what you're going to say, for example, if you're going to document a component, say for example an input item, so you're designing a component. The way you're going to design that component and document that component for a developer is not the same way that a product manager is going to consume that info. For a product manager, they'll probably look at the copy. They'll be like, okay, this input should have maybe a what is it called? A title, a placeholder, and a hint. So the product manager tells you that, okay, we need a way for a user to input their number and validate that number. So it means you need a hint. So for them, they'll understand that language, that this is what the user needs. But for a developer, you'll have to note down every single element. So you tell them, okay, our title is 16 pixels, it is this wide, it is this color, our border is this, our if it is curved, it is like this, it is this pixels, the placeholder inside is this color, the feel of that input is this color, and the hint is this color. And you actually even go ahead and tell them, okay, I know this only serves for this purpose. So it's an active state. I'll call it an active state. You have to also give them error states. What if a user puts in a wrong number or puts in a larger number than we accept? So should we showcase a red hint telling them that the input that they put is wrong? So all these things you're going to think about, but you have to document them in the guidelines. That's why the guidelines is very important. So it tells you how other guys are going to contribute, because a design system is it's a it's a marriage of many stakeholders, and you have to hit the right mark with all those stakeholders. Um, what else did I want to say in that? So once you've done your guidelines, I'm just looking here at my notes. The next stage is to do your principles. So, and you'll find this is very common. The way I've broken down the design system, it's very common with all the design systems I've gone across. Like I have a tab here that has almost like 50 design systems that I look at. I can just name a few. You have Base Web that is used by Uber, Carbon Design System, I've forgotten who uses that. Textile is used by Shopify, HIG by Apple, Color by MailChimp. So just to mention a few, all those design systems, they break down their their design systems into guidelines, principles, patterns, components. Sometimes they do assets. So yeah, that's why I'm going through all of them. So the principles are essentially you have to ensure that
How long does that take? Like, how long does it take to create a complete system? You know, like, kazi mob. Considering,
Yes.
okay, I'm asking because penye niko mi nafaa create design system.
Mm-hmm.
Mimi peke yangu.
Mm.
So how long does it take, and how can you go about it?
One, I'll be honest, it's a very intensive process. It takes a while. Don't expect that to be a project here 3 months. So give yourself like 6 months plus to create a comprehensive design system. But you can always start small. You can always start with kits. You can always start with and I'll give you a reason as to why there are ways you can create a design system without actually having to create everything, because a design system has a lot. Like components are a lot, but you don't have to create each and every component in the world. If you only use two types of buttons, why would I need to create variety unless I have other products? So a design system can evolve. So you can start small with the kit that builds onto different needs. So once you have a need for another component, you can just add it, and that's the beauty about design systems and components. You can actually do your variants. So you build a one component, a button, you do all your different variants, and if you want to change that or update that, you just update this one. So yeah, what did you ask again? I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. It's the first thing you said.
Yeah.
You said you well, honestly, design systems take a lot, but you can start small.
Yes. 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 Yeah.
You have answered my question.
All right.
So I'm just nashindwa tu.
Okay, I before Chantal speaks, I did this thing that we talked. It mostly it I don't know, it confuses me. This term called design token.
So design tokens is now where you interact with the dev. So design tokens, I can explain it. It's a tech agnostic way of describing color, typography. What else can you do? Spacing, shadows, elevation. So a color token can be something like this. A color token. Okay, how would I put it? It's how you're going to describe your visual, or rather UI elements to a dev. So how devs consume UI, they look at color and they say, or rather they look at a color, so maybe it's white, right? But your white, you name that white as cities FFF, right? As the hex code, right? So that white can indicate a specific component, or rather can indicate a specific actually a specific component. Your white can be for backgrounds. It can be for what else? It can be for a card that is elevated. It can be for text. So all these colors and all this typography, you have to name them in such a way that a developer will understand. So I think Elvis, let me ask you a question. How do you consume color tokens? How do you write them in code?
Mostly I use the color
You
code.
just use the color code.
So you find you see like for the design you have
Mhm,
specific colors, like the primary color. So when I'm
mm.
developing, so I'll have to use it like let me call it like how can I put it? Simple. I'm looking for
You
the
got
simplest
lost
word
there.
like people can understand. Like a variable, like you use it like a color. So every
Mhm.
that color, so you reference it anytime you're using
Yes.
it.
So it's
Yes,
exactly
yes.
that. But now each and every element you have a color for it. So for example, if I want to name a color for a placeholder that is inside I wish I could like just show you guys in Figma, it would have been easier. So you have a placeholder that is a certain color, right? So um
Can I?
You can share a screen.
Yeah, I almost interrupted to tell you you can share screen.
I can't.
You can.
You
Oh,
can.
Unaweza.
So let me see. Screen. Let me take this for example. Ooh. Oh, let me show you. This one is easy to understand. So I want to show you color tokens. Colors, where's colors? Did they name these tokens? And I think you remember when I was teaching you guys in the class. So you have your primary colors, your secondary colors, and tertiary and whatnot. But now from this,
Ngoja kidogo,
Mhm.
ngoja tu kidogo, hatutaacha hiyo ipite.
Nini?
So wanafunzi wameleta mwalimu darasa tena. Hiyo asingeacha ipite. Nilikuwa nimesahau ulitufunza. Tungeanza hiyo
Yes.
tukisema huko mbele kwa podcast.
Sorry?
Unanisikia?
Nakusikia.
I'm saying we
Mm.
forgot you once taught us. That's what we would have started with. Hii podcast.
All right, I forgot that. All right, no worries. I'm planning to revive the classes anyway. So,
Yay!
yeah. So,
Tunaweza rudi ama
um,
second kama tusikuje.
how you can organize your tokens? Why don't I have a good example? So, say for example, you want your background to. You have different types of backgrounds for different types of elements. You have a background for like all this. You have a background for this card, and also inside. So how they name their tokens, did they name their tokens? Would be something like this. Let me just text right here. Would be something like hash color. They say background. And maybe that token is you have states for that token. So maybe it's active. So this color, and this is let's say error. And then let's say success. So what we have here are these three states. So you can make all this. This is also a deep dive. You need a deep dive in design tokens. I'll just be very brief. So let me pick one color here. Success. Let's pick one for error.
So I'm really curious. While you're doing that, while you're finishing up setting the examples, I'm just wondering, is it possible for you to do a series of how to create design system in
Oh,
practical?
yeah, I can. So you see,
Sana kupange.
yeah. So you see, for a dev, it will be easier for them to understand that because now what we are referencing. So what we are referencing is this color. What we are trying to reference here is that color. And here is this color. So it will be easier for a dev to understand. And when you're updating, I only need to update this instead of going and updating this. So story for another day, but that is how tokens you name them. So you can have tokens for color, typography, spacing, breakpoints, radius for corner, shadows, even transitions for animation. So all this you have to name them in such a way that a dev can understand. And when you update it, it does not affect the dev. So if I want to update this color, I just go and update this, and it will update this. As opposed to I tell the dev, hey, end of copy D999 uko. So it becomes an easier way to maintain.
Ah, yes, yes. This one is very helpful. Inaweza relate like a
Kabisa, si ndio?
developer. Yes, sana sana. Right now I
Mhm.
use Tailwind. Tailwind, it's much
Yep.
easier to do this. I used to
Mm.
CSS before. Have you learned
Nope.
CSS anyway?
Nope. Mimi na coding. Mm. But I understand just some basics kidogo. Because all this
Ah,
ni, I think it's mostly CSS, right? Ama na HTML.
yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, that's how you name tokens. So I think we may go through guidelines, we may go through foundations, principles. I've done tokens, so we come into the component space. So the components are basically all the visual elements that you're going to build. And we use something called the atomic structure. So the atomic structure, it's by, is it by Brad Frost? I've forgotten the name. I think it's by him. So what the atomic structure is, it is, you build an atom. An atom, two atoms make a molecule. Many molecules make an organism. Many organisms make a template. Many templates make a page. Many pages make a product. So what are atoms? So atoms are the smallest UI components that you're building. So for example, if you look at any page, so to build such a component, so this is my component and I'm calling it the header for desktop. I also have the header for mobile. So to build this component, it requires multiple components underneath it. So I want to show you what is a template, what is an atom, what is the rest of the things. So for me, an atom would be all these individual items. So an atom for me is this icon, it's this icon. Standing on its own, it's this icon, and this element. I combine two of these, or rather I combine all these, because you can see it's all the and that's how you design. You design by all the components that are looking the same or functioning with the same way, group them together. So that's why I've grouped all this together. So all the icons I'm putting in there, and now it forms a molecule. So we continue in the same stage. We have our icon, or rather our logo, and we have an icon, a hamburger icon. I combine all this, I form a molecule. I combine this, and give it a background and shadow and what is it called? I give it a stroke. It becomes now a mobile header component. Do you see how now we've come from an atom to a molecule to an organism? So for me, this is now an organism. I combine all this to a page like this. You see now how I have different components. So I have a component for an alert. I have the component for header that has different things inside, and component for title, and so on and so forth. So I've talked about atoms, molecules, organisms, templates. So if I have such a component, like this is one component by itself, as you can see. So if I have this component, it can form a template by me adding like other, like I can call it a template for a product row or other product catalog. And that's exactly what I've done. So for me, a template is something like this. It builds onto multiple um, components. Excuse me. So once you have your components, you have your templates, you can build pages with it. I'll show you also an example of how it's easy to build pages because you have all your components. So you build your components, you build your buttons. So I can name 1,000,001 components, but all these are usually the same. And it's also good to know them and how you name them. So you can have a button, you build one button, but now you have the different variations. So I have variations for small, medium, large, XL to XL. In the same component, I am giving the hierarchy. So I can have the primary button, secondary, and all those, even a link button. In that button also, there's a variation for if it is an icon. So I can have a default that uh, has an icon on the left and on the right, an icon leading and trailing, a dot leading and only. I can have other variants for destructive. So it depends on also the product you're building. You can go this deep, but you really don't have to. You only build what you need for now. That's for me. That's how I go around building design systems. I build what I need, then add on top of that. Same with states. You need your default, you need your hover, you need your focused, and you need your disable. So when a developer comes in to your design system, they understand that, okay, this button will look like this, and this is the color change if it is pressed. If it is disabled, it will look like this. So there is no room for guesswork for a developer and also a designer. It's one source of truth. So you need all to build all your different components that you're going to use, your button groups, badges, I can name all this. And all these are still also in the different design systems that I can share with you. And also they are online. So once you've built out the different components, all the components can help you build such pages. So since you have such a component like this, you have your header, you just pick your header, you just pick your content form or input field, you pick this, you pick your buttons, and you move on. So there's not a lot of guesswork, and it reduces the time spent for designing. So you can actually focus on more user problems. I wouldn't encourage any designer right now, even when you're starting out, to be actually designing a lot of components from scratch. Why? Because you're going to spend a lot of time. Why spend 10 minutes designing a button while you can spend the same 10 minutes thinking about a user journey or an experience that you need to improve? So that's how you can elevate yourself as a designer. So by using such design systems, it helps you to focus on the real problems, the real user problems. Yeah. What else did I leave here? Yeah, and guidelines and documentation. These are also things you just need to think about. Uh, we've talked about tokens, we've talked about components, templates. The last thing is patterns. So patterns are essentially, there are some normal recognized practices that happen within products that users use. So, for example, we have navigation patterns that you have to have when you're designing a website. You have to have a header. That's a no-brainer. So, patterns are recognizable practices or guidelines that meet a specific need. So, you can have patterns for forms, cards. You can have patterns for even how you handle your errors, how you do your layouts, and so on and so forth. Downloads is not really much, but this is what I was talking about. For other design systems, they put either downloads or assets. So what essentially it means is it's a collection of all all assets that are going to be used in your design system. So talk about photos, talk about your icons, talk about your icons, what else? Illustrations, maybe there's an animation that you're using somewhere, videos. So all the digital assets that you need are always going to stay in one place. So it means that a marketing guy can come and access them and use them because you've given them the guidelines as well. So you tell them, okay, since you build out the brand, you know your typography, so they can't go outside what your brand has. So it means that even your marketing assets, your tone online will be streamlined, and also not essentially streamlined. It will be in unison, if I can call it that. All right, all right. So I think
The
that's.
more we go, the more we've been
Sorry.
going, the more I'm convinced. Unanisikia kweli?
Yeah.
The more we've been going, the more I've been convinced. Penye niko sahi, I need to create one. So there's me. There's me. I am a designer, a solo product designer at that in a startup
Mhm,
that's creating a very big product and sina design system. I know I should have one. So vitu ziko but ziko scattered. Unaweza sema of course kuna issues I'm facing, like I can't always get it right because I don't have like a particular design system. So utapata at times buttons dogo zinakaa different. For a design at least mwenye ako ya design naye ataona ai kuna venye Chantal unatucheza unaona.
mm.
So what would you advise me to do?
All right. So if you're building out a product from scratch and you're in the face of a lot of iteration, I would advise you, from my experience, I would advise you not to first start building the design system. Why? Because you're going to change a lot. So a design system should be like the last stage that you do. That's my opinion first. So what I would encourage you to do is first try and figure out how, like, the major components look like. How does a how does your button look like? How do your headers look like? Your inputs, your forms. So you're thinking about the major components of your app first. So if you have that already designed, then now pick from that, and you've already shared to your stakeholders and they have agreed that this is the actual direction you're taking. Then now take those components one by one and put them in a design system and build out the variations. You get me? So let me share. Let me share again. So, like, for this that I'm doing, I haven't built any component. You see? So first I need to think about, okay, how will my app look like? So that's why building out your principles is very important. And your principles is your style guide, your UI kits, how you do your, how, like, the look and feel, your colors, your typography. Once you've identified all that, it's now easy to build. So for me, I already identified that, okay, I want this what is it called, font. So I decide on one font that I want, I decide on another font, and I continuously build slowly. So for this, I already envision, and that's the good thing about designers. I can also as well go online and look for a landing page and copy it as it is. Then I look at all the elements that are building here. So I notice, okay, I have a button here. I have to make sure that this button is the same height, the same curvature, and all those things as this other button. So it means that now I can take this button, take it to, let me just add a new page here called components, because I still need one. Oh, shit. Jeez. So I take that because now I already shared this with whoever my client. It's actually just a friend. Um, so I shared it with him. He was like, "Ah, this looks great. So let's continue with this look and feel." So it means that now we've already established our brand identity through the colors. We've already established our typography. We've already established everything with this simple design for the landing page. So I can continue building it out so that I know what other components I need. Vis-a-vis, imagine if I decided now to start building out the buttons and I don't even know what this looks like. You see where I'm getting at? Are you there?
Eh, sorry, nilikuwa nimemute. Yes, I see where you're getting at.
Mm.
I
So,
can also add on that. From
mhm,
a developer perspective, like as a developer, you always view the functionality first.
mm,
So it's kind of the same way, like you're building the design system based on what's needed. Yeah, makes
yes,
sense.
yes. So the more you need, so say for example, you discover, okay, I need a different kind of button that is not pill shaped. So you go take that button, edit it, and commit it as now a new component. And the good thing about Figma libraries is once you update a component, you can actually document and say, okay, I updated this in this component, and you can track all the different changes that have happened. So it's easy for you also to understand, okay, how did this component grow into this? Because every time you're building and you're not documenting each and every component, there'll come a time that you'll be asking yourself, why do I need this? Or even a stakeholder asks you why we need this button here. So you need to be able to answer these questions and validate your design decisions.
I see. I do hear you. I think I now know my next course of action. Like, ni chill too, but niende gradually.
Yes.
And then I can ask, now that okay, so now that
Sorry,
you've
then you
done
can.
this before, what has been your biggest
Potea.
challenge creating design systems?
Sorry?
What has been your biggest challenge creating design systems? I'm really sorry. I think it's the platform.
I think so too. Biggest
Hujatujalipia
challenge.
bado.
No worries, no worries. The biggest challenge is actually documentation for me. Documentation sucks, to be honest. Because you need to be meticulous in understanding why you're building any component. There's essentially there's a quote in design that less is more. No, more is less. Is it less is more or more is less? But basically, you need to understand, like, what more can I take out of a design and it still makes sense. So um, when I'm documenting, I try to ensure that I understand what each component role and purpose is. So I start with that. So I give out guidelines on to how on the usage, and at times I also forget a lot, to be honest. So you might find that I built a component and forgot to do some states. So a developer comes and asks me, okay, where is the error state? Where is the success state? And you have to go back to the drawing board to build that and document that. So yeah, it's a lot of documentation, it's a lot of going through the work that you've done and iteration. So there's a lot to do in actually the documentation for me, more than the designing part, because right now you as in, I don't think we should be designing buttons. I really don't think so. Yeah.
I do get it. I actually do. Na sasa, how do you manage your design systems, Basi?
So managing is also on you have to do like I do checklists most of the time. So you have like a component checklist. You look at all the components that you have or need. So, for example, your component checklist can have you can even group them. You can group like how Apple does it in their HIG. So they group different components depending on the purpose they serve. So you can have let me just check what they do. So maybe you group them according to usage. Well, that's a story for another day. I don't want to get into that. But I have a checklist that tells me, okay, I have this component. I need this component in different states. I need this component in different sizes. I need this component in different colors. I need this component in different variants. So once I do like a component and I understand, or rather, you're done with designing that component, then you ask yourself, all right, are all the states done? You check it. So it's just a simple checklist that ensures that you try to cover all bases. And maintenance is an ongoing thing. I don't think there's a design system that you just build and let go and you never come back to it again, because there are always new needs that come about each and every time with new products. So you might need to edit components, but the biggest takeaway is always try and document every process that you're doing in your components.
Sorry, karibu mbwa iniangushe laptop jamani. Anyway, yeah, so I do get it. I'm just so you don't use any tools.
No, I don't think so.
Even
Tools is
okay,
just you
so
going into the design system, trying and
mm-hmm.
looking at other people's design system. So you go to Material UI, you look at what they have done, you build yours, and continue updating as you go. So I haven't come across any like tool that you specifically use to maintain the design system, but I believe Figma in itself, once you build design system in a good way, you can easily manage them very efficiently, especially with the libraries and variables. Actually, just the libraries, yes.
I think I get it. So hakuna basically cha umeniambia ni hakuna shortcuts Chantal.
Hakuna. But I'm going to get to the shortcut, because there's a shortcut. There's actually a shortcut to build design systems, and
Oh
it's
really?
yes. Like go to the community. I tell you guys so many different times. Go to the Figma
So
community.
there's that.
Yes.
No, there's that. And then there's someone. Do you know how hard it is for you to use something you've not created?
How? As a designer, you should always be using things that you haven't created so that you create something new. We steal a lot. You Hmm? Me, I steal designs and
I can agree with that. As for me, I think I've done designs. I've not done a lot of designs because majority of these designs I've stolen like a thief, like an artist, and then
yes.
I iterate them to what I wanted them to be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it should be. So there are a lot of design system online. Kwanza Figma to community. Just pick one, edit. Uh, we did that as well in my previous companies. I don't want to mention them because maybe they'll ask me, why did you say that? However, we actually took design systems from other places. And the good thing is all these things are online. Like even the design system for big companies, you can get them. You can get a whole design system for Apple and you move along and build beautiful products. And it will be yours because now they don't own buttons, do they? Yeah, so that's for me. That's the whole silver lining in building a design system. Yes, it's a lot of hard work, maintaining, collaborating, and getting stakeholder involvement. Because there are times I've actually suggested doing a design system, and the management was like, no, 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 it's a waste of time. So they don't understand. Maybe they didn't understand the impact. However, it's time consuming, it's resource intensive, and it requires a lot of work. Yeah. However, if you there are ways you can actually grab here and there. Because my design system that I use a lot, I use Untitled UI. I was lucky enough to get Untitled UI. It has almost all the components that you might need. So I just try, pick, edit, katumesonga.
Umesema uko na Untitled UI, tunaweza omba. Jua labda Elvis hataelewa my excitement of Untitled UI as a design system.
Untitled UI, hiyo tutaongea kanda.
Ayo sawa. Wacha nimuexplainie haelewi. So Untitled UI ni design system fulani imetengenezwa na I think a couple of designers na walitoa like they were picking from other design systems while improving them. So hao wameinclude mpaka accessibility and all. Anyway, I hope ameelewa.
Wacha nikuonyeshe. Si ndio hapa. Oh, where is it? Yeah. So this is essentially Untitled UI. Na hivi pia ndio mimi hugawanyisha tu kazi yangu. So you start with your foundations, you have your colors. See, so do I really need to go kwa color picker nianze kuangalia I just come pick here and move. And also there are plugins that you can steal colors from. So don't waste time. Focus on other things. It has all the typographies, uko na malogo zao hapo, icons. Make sure pia uko na icon pack. Like just have a good icon pack. Download them somewhere and be using it for consistency. Usikuwe na icon moja inakaa hivi na ingine inakaa sijui aje, ama umeidownload sijui wapi icon. So ensure all your icons are consistent. Kuna kila kitu, grids, spacing. So hizi ndio tokens. So how they name their tokens, sijui kama wameziname hapa, hawaku name. But maybe hapa kwa shadow wangeandika hash or $ ama hashtag shadow small for some, and it's going to be used for something, and you actually explain where it's going to be used. And I have everything. So all the buttons, button groups, badges, inputs, toggles. Then they give you even I need to add like templates you can use. So do I really need to think about a sign up page? Nianze kuandika hizi zote? Hapana. Let me think about how we are going to convert a user and build journeys zenye zitafanya goals za huyo user zikuwe achieved, instead of thinking about all this for 4 pages. So it has a lot. Iko na landing pages kibao. So yeah, it's a very nice tool to use, and the community is full of them. Hapo ukiandika tu design system, you'll find everything. See, hata kuna free kit ya Untitled UI, kuna ant designs, like hata Apple walieka yao, sijui walieka wapi, vile walitoa Vision OS walieka yao hapa, because I used something, ndio hata Tailwind yako. So the good thing about even using such design systems that have already been built and developed, like Tailwind and Shad CN, is you actually know that the code exists. So hata for dev anaweza enda kupick code kama amesonga. Shad, let me show you Shad UI. Shad CN, yep. So you see, like, this is already code that if it is Elvis ya anakuja amekopi amesonga ka injili. Na button unaona preview inakaa hivi. So if I go and build this and I know I can even copy the code, so I can even document for the dev the code in itself, because the more you go in documentation, the more you understand it. It's really helpful for them to consume your data. So yeah, design systems hapa ni kibao. So I'll share a link to hizi zote. Yeah.
Interesting. We'd appreciate the list of design systems actually. Sasa Okay, now that you've talked, we've almost actually covered almost everything for design systems. Just, I'm really curious. So AI is changing a lot. Do you see AI improving design systems in any way or something? And not just AI, like what are the latest trends when building design systems and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. I think AI would help a lot because, and especially for me, I use AI in the documentation. So maybe I build something. I ask ChatGPT, okay, how will this component be used in such a context? So it's really helpful, and I feel there are even AIs right now. I'm not even sure if there are, but I'll go research that can actually build a design system because I've seen one. It's not an AI, it's just a plugin. But all these tools are helpful because it lessens the time for designing and even experimenting. Because if you go and pick and grab and move on, you'll spend like a week designing a product as opposed to 3 months. So use the tools. I'll give you one plugin that is called HTML to Figma. Like basically, you take just search for any website that you like and that you'd like to copy as is. Take the URL, go to that Figma plugin. It's called HTML to Figma. Paste in that link. It will generate a design for you that has all the components vile your website in a car. So as in make your life easy. There are times I've done that and works out brilliant.
You've been racing. Umesema classes zinaanza lini tena?
I'm still planning, so I'll let you know. Don't worry, you'll be the first ones to know.
Ah,
Tafadhali. Juu mi
perfect.
naweza.
So what I'm coming to understand is, apart from being a designer, you need to understand the tools and the hacks around the tools. It will make your life
Yes,
simpler.
yes,
Yeah.
and I believe you will. Like you have to be wise with your time management as well. Like you can't really know about these tools and use these tools if you're spending all your time designing buttons, designing. You get me? So the
Even
more
the morale
you,
will go down when you're designing
yes,
buttons.
exactly. Trust you me, Inaisha.
Yes, yes.
Sawa sawa. I think before to wrap up, mi nimeuza maswali zangu zote. Elvis, do you have any more questions?
For me, I think I don't have any question, and at least I've understood what design system is, design token. I never understood design token. I remember there's a time I went for a certain session somewhere. He was talking.
Mm.
There was a speaker talking about design tokens from start to end. It was a 30 minutes talk from start to end. I never understood what is a design token.
Marika, you're lost.
At least now I know.
Sijasikia kitu.
Naweza rudia nasema I
Mhm.
I didn't know what design token was. There's this session I went. It was a 30-minute session. So the speaker talked about design. Design token from start to end, and I never understood design token. Ni kama
Ala,
nimekuwa
akifika kwa
understand.
design tokens,
Yes, I was out.
ukianza tu kuongea about design tokens inakatika.
Oh, guy. I think it's the application, but from the other end, it's being recorded. So I think
Okay.
it enough fluctuate.
Pole, the dog is back, so I think inafaa call it wind up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, thank you very much. Ah, ndo huyu.
Bosco.
Umeona pia wewe. Aya. So let's wrap up. So actually, I have learned a lot. Actually, I didn't know like we also need to add like downloads and assets pale for design system. I also noticed I've learned something totally new. The patterns thing is very new. Um, So nimeelewa pia how to like create a design system, how to start or where to start from, if you're starting from scratch or if umepata katikati, how to break it down. Najua, I didn't even know like how to break it down for like developers the way you've done it. So I've learned a lot. This was an amazing episode and very insightful. I would wish we do have a series of like practical, maybe lot nafanya. Let's do components, yeah. Tuna pick from other places, tuna customize wenyewe. I'm going to I'll look into you. I'll talk to you so that you can look into your schedule and see how or where to push it in.
Okay, sounds good.
Lakini I have enjoyed this episode. Na mimi nataka kumalizia, but before I finish, I always Max, any last words for us? Hebu tupe advice. Unaweza tu advice aje?
Kwanza
Uh,
before Max aongee, nataka nimpatie,
mhm.
I need to put him in this position. I am a newbie, I want to be a product designer, like the two of you. I have basics for designing. So like, what advice can you give me, like an upcoming product designer? Yes.
I think
Sorry, mimi nachapa tu mbwa na sija.
I think. Oh, okay. The the only advice I would give you is try to be on the lookout. I don't know if that would make sense for design, because design is everywhere, even in nature. So when you think of design, and especially when you early on in your career, and it happened to me as well, I was so focused on design only on web. What that meant was I felt that design was I didn't know that design encompasses a lot. So nowadays I'm in the car, I look at a billboard and I'm like, why did they put this here? If I'm going like 100 kilometers per hour, will I even see that text? Will I even see that number? So and that's what I mean by being on the lookout. Design is everywhere, and if you notice the patterns that design does, because it generally mimics human nature, it generally mimics psychology of how we operate. There's a reason why buttons were invented. Do you know that? Why do we have like a button and it has to be like pressable? It started out a long time ago. Go do your research, you'll understand that all these things are real life applications of things that we are accustomed to, and that um, we do on a daily basis as humans. So the moment you can see those patterns out there, it's easy now to internalize them into design. It will be easy for you to understand why are you using a certain component and as opposed to another. I can give you an example for why you use a toggle as opposed to a checkbox. A toggle means you only have two options. A checkbox you can have multiple options. So all these are things that I feel a newbie product designer does not really focus on. And maybe I've never been to any boot camp, but I kind of feel that that is what is missing in this space. It's a holistic approach to design where you have to understand psychology in some way. You have to understand how people operate, how people think, how people react, and even the history of things. Like, yeah. So for me, that's the important part, and that is what sets you apart from other designers. It also gives you um, more leverage as a designer, because if you are a designer in a company only just designing, and you're not making business decisions, and you even don't understand business decisions, you are easily replaceable. Because right now, I tell you, I kid you not, there are AIs that are coming that are going to be designing. I have forgotten her. There was one that is it Dora, where you could prompt it and it gives you a Figma file that has been designed. So you're telling me that you're sitting there pretty enjoying na kuna mzee anaenda kumaliza job yako. So if you can pick up a business book, pick up a entrepreneurship book, pick up marketing, understand all these principles of design inside there, because there are fundamentals that are in everything. So yeah, that's me. That's the advice I would give you. It's not easy though.
No, me. I as Mariga, I've gotten the picture. I probably think that that's what I was lacking to fully, like have that vision of being a designer. Because like coming from a developer perspective, you always think about functionality. When you're doing something, you don't. You always think like, right now I need a button here. What does this
Mm,
button? I don't. I don't care how the button will look like or anything, but this button has to do this. Yes, in terms of
mm,
functionality. So when it comes to designing, is you need to understand why I'm putting this button here, and as in from the start, what's a button? I need to
exactly.
understand like, literally what's a button. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Thank you for that, and thank you for adding more motivation for me being a product designer very soon.
Let me fuel the passion. Let me fuel that creativity.
Asante sana.
Sawa guys, that has been Elvis Mariga. Max unasema bye mwenyewe.
All right, all right. Well, guys, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking my nonsense that might make sense to you guys. Yeah, and God is a designer.
Why are you so modest? I have given you nonsense that has made no, no, no. It has been valuable insights. Thank you very much, Max. I have been Chinderetta, your host. Bye.
Bye bye.